Chris Cuomo is actually one of the best people at News Nation. This guy has, in my opinion, had a very big comeback in from being such a left wing, just kind of propaganda arm to now more of a neutral aspect, neutral kind of viewpoints of things. And I think that's truly what and who he naturally is. But since he was at CNN and he was pretty much forced to take certain positions, and I know that he would disagree with me, but it's kind of the writing on the wall. Now that he's at News Nation, this guy has actual partial takes, very neutral takes. And this is a great example of how neutral he has become over time. And we're excited to see this. In my opinion, News Nation has been killing it. There's no reason, there's no other reason why they're growing in popularity and in the leaderboard of, attention grabbing news organizations. And I'm excited that CNN and MSNBC are all dropping off, and News Nation is rising in the ranks. So with that being said, let's get into it and see exactly what Cuomo says about Elon and Trump, and how Doge is doing, how they're talking to the media. It's got a little bit of everything. So with that being said, let's get into it.
What a moment we had today. I have never seen anything like it. That presser was one of the most informative of the Trump era. And no small irony, it wasn't him doing most of the talking. But we learned more about what the administration is doing and how it responds to legitimate and just some illegitimate scrutiny. Elon Musk, center stage, very different than the head troll on his social media trash site. He had his son playing along on his shoulders, and it was reminiscent of the JFK days with John, if only because of that. But there was also this spirit trying to be inculcated of, let's do things different. Let's try to be a new generation here. Of course, Trump is part of the older generation, but Musk is not. And he held forth on how he is trying to change the way government does business. Take a listen.
The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. What are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. So if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation.
I've never heard so much said, and yet the president is just sitting there listening. It is completely unorthodox. But does that mean it's bad? No. I know the game is about reflexively attacking the side that you hate or anything that is different. But let's be honest. Does anyone think a majority of this country does not want government waste eliminated? Of course, we know there was an ugly and obvious split on who people thought could better affect change in this past election, but changing how well the government works was clearly on the ballot. And the obvious conclusion is nothing changes if nothing changes. So the order of the day was get smaller. And Trump did his part directing government agencies to let Musk and his minions in to work on reducing the side of federal government by reducing certain expenditures and workforce. For example, they can only hire 1 employee for every 4 who leaves government. The problem for me in the room wasn't Musk or even the man seated quietly at the desk, but some of the pushback from the media, which really seemed to be a defense of the status quo. And the Democrats acting the fool outside and online about every attempt at change being made by Musk and Trump. Instead of getting the message, you need better ideas than he has if you want to get back into leadership. Now, all change is not good change, and we need to know more and better what's being cut and the effect. And no, we're not going to just go to the Doge website or the Doge handle on Twitter to figure it out. The government is responsible to us, It is not for us to go figure them out. He has to be held to account and say what they're doing and why. And yes, early on mistakes have been made. Musk should have disclosed that the first agency he targeted was one investigating him, and he's been way too quiet about USAID and looking at him. And he better be ahead of any conflicts when the DOD is looked at, because he gets a lot of money. And we should know how much and why we need to pay Elon Musk what we do. And yes, he has made mistakes in what he is cutting and how he explains it. And there are legitimate questions of overreach that the courts should decide. But that doesn't mean that the overall effort should be abandoned, as some media seem to think. And what I like is that, unlike with Trump, who just spits back at any criticism, Musk did something today you almost never see. He heard the criticism, and he returned genuine and gotchas with candor.
You said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. Can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly.
What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
When have you ever heard Trump admit he was mistaken? Really, like, no politician ever says that his mistakes should be called out. Now, I guess it's somewhat easier for Musk to say that. He didn't ask for anybody's vote, right? They asked him to do this. But today, he really did lend something that's unusual in this administration: actual understanding of how things work and specifics of what's being targeted, as opposed to just this.
I think it's kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
Yeah, tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts.
Yes.
So he has to get a kickback. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. Here's a corrupt situation. We have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer?
I mean, he's clearly just relaying what Elon told him about what they're doing, and that's okay. Trump did something that is very unusual. He picked someone who's better for the job to do it. And really, it wasn't until the president went after the judge that the session became same old, same old. Trump dismissed judicial review of several executive orders as if this was out of line. This was an activist judge. Be very clear. This is not a political debate, okay? This is a judge, a federal judge, acting on what matters. Checks and balances are not some inconvenience. They're how our Constitution works, okay? And nobody believes that Trump can unilaterally change the 14th Amendment or do some of these other things he's trying to do. That's legit.
So there you have it. This guy, Chris, I think overall pretty solid take. I think there's things in there that are definitely a little tedious, and that's fine. Backhand compliments. But, you know, overall, from where we've seen Chris Cuomo in the past to now, it's definitely a upgrade in his takes, his demeanor, his neutrality, right? And I'm all for it. This is a step in the right direction. I think News Nation is smart to employ him and allow him to have this growth within the space. And pumped to see it. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share. Smooth Unfiltered. Peace.